Hey everyone, what's going on? I am here playing Out of the Park Baseball 16, and I am coming at you with a new series that I'm doing. It's called Fix the Phillies, and in this scenario, I am taking over the Philadelphia Phillies GM job. The scenario is the Phillies have fired Ruben Amaro, and they have replaced him with me. So I had the game all set up, everything's loaded. So in this series, all I'm really going to do is I'm going to kind of just take you through, I'm going to try to break the game down a little bit, kind of take you through my thought process, kind of explain how I go about doing things, show you how I analyze my game. As you can see here, I'm only through April 16th, so the season is really, really early. I've only played a few weeks, and I'm going to kind of show you really, really briefly how I set up my league, how I've kind of got everything set up. Let's see here. So yeah, I'm going to go into my game settings. I'm going to show you some of the little customizations that I've made. Let's see here. I think everything on this screen is pretty much the same. Everything looks pretty good. The only thing that I really did that's kind of strange about this league that's different is that I also set up the Japanese league, and that might have been a mistake. Oh yeah, I set up the independent leagues as well. So I hope that's not too big of a mistake, because it seems to be slowing the game down a little bit. So that might be something that I have to change. But for the time being, I'm going to kind of just show you what I have set up here. Yeah, in Global Settings tab, everything is pretty much the same. In the Players and Face Gen tab, the only thing I did was I dialed down the player aging speed a little bit. I changed it from 1000 to 0.800. And the only reason I did that is because I kind of find that in Out of the Park Baseball by default, players tend to burn out at around age 35, 36, whereas in real baseball, sometimes you'll get guys who kind of fluctuate. You'll get guys who burn out at like age 32. And you also get guys like David Ortiz who kind of keep their career going at age 39. And you also get guys like Troy Hawkins who can miraculously pitch all the way up to age 42 somehow. So I like to dial it down to 800. It makes it a little bit more realistic. I find it makes things a little bit more compelling to go in and see that you have this great all-star player who's 40 years old. I think it's interesting. Another thing that I do is I kind of increase talent change randomness a little bit to 120. The default's actually okay. I just kind of like to have my game be a little bit more random, so that's kind of just something I have. I find it to be kind of cool that like suddenly your mediocre player like Jerome Williams can suddenly burst out and have a really good year. I think that's kind of interesting. It adds a little bit of unpredictability to the league. It kind of spices things up. That's just something that I like. That's kind of my house rule. Other than that, I have player pictures for all players. I like to have coach pictures for all coaches, scouts, and managers. So I'll kind of have I have face gen, but I also have pictures for some guys that are customized in the game. AI settings, I have trading difficulty to hard, and I have trading preference to favor prospects, which I think is a little bit more realistic about how general managers actually kind of approach trades. They're definitely not going to be in favor of trading their top prospects, so that's how I have that set up. Player evaluation settings, I have it set up so it's a little bit more balanced, 40-40, 15-5. I find that that's probably the most beneficial player evaluation setting to have. AI GM managers will kind of favor player statistics just as much as they'll favor their weight, which I think is kind of makes sense. I feel like in real life, general managers definitely look at a player's actual production just as much as they look at their ability. So I think that's probably the best thing to do there. Other than that, the only thing I do is I kind of make the teams chill out a little bit in terms of trading. I've made AI trading frequency low. I kind of like to see teams keep the same rosters from year to year instead of kind of rebuilding all the damn time like they do by default. Maybe it's different in this version of the game, but I find that in different versions of the games, teams kind of wheel and deal a little bit too much for my liking. So yeah, actually, you know what? That's a good preface into my personal philosophy. I'm not a GM that likes to wheel and deal too much. If I get a player who's really, really good, I want to try my hardest to retain him. And actually, that's kind of in line with what Ruben Amaro Jr. did with extending Ryan Howard and Chase Utley. The only difference between him and me is that I would not give them bloated contracts. That's another thing with me. I will not overpay for players. I won't give Cliff Lee a $27 million deal. That's way too damn much money. Ryan Howard, $25 million. Same thing. Way too much money. Chase Utley, $15 million. That's a little bit more reasonable. That's not too bad. Cole Hamels, even $22.5 million for Cole Hamels is a little bit. It's just a little bit too much money. I'm very, very frugal as a GM. I like to keep payroll relatively low. If I'm a winning team, 130 is actually probably pretty good. But if I'm a losing team, 130 is way too high. It should be something like 100. Like 100 million for me would be a good payroll amount to have. And actually, if I look at my owner, he's saying cut payroll to $120 million, which would be reasonable if any of my players had trade value. But unfortunately, I'm kind of stuck in this predicament where not only is my team roster composition not very balanced, the players who I have with high salary do not have any trade value at all. So I'm kind of stuck in this really, really awkward position where I'm kind of in a phase where I should be rebuilding, but I'm fundamentally unable to rebuild because I'm hemorrhaging money with all these top-notch salaries. So basically, what my philosophy is going to be focused on having these contracts kind of run out the duration of their life. As you can see here, Ryan Howard he has 2 years left. Definitely not going to accept this option. Cliffley has 1 year left. Definitely not going to accept his option. Chase Utley, I might accept his option because $15 million isn't too terrible. But it depends completely on his output. If he continues to kind of be mediocre, I'll probably reject that. And Jonathan Papelbon, definitely going to reject his option because it's going to be $13 million and that is way too much money. So after I do all that, it should free up a good amount of money and should give me some wiggle room to make some moves. Another philosophy that I have is player development. As you can see here, the Phillies are 24th out of 30th in baseball, which is absolutely terrible for a team that is expected to kind of be in a rebuilding phase and is expected to be at the bottom feeder of the league. If you're going to be a bad team, then you should have low payroll and you should have really, really good prospects. And it seems like I'm at the complete opposite of that spectrum. I have really bloated payroll and I have complete utter shit prospects. As you can see here, the only prospect I really have is Aaron Nola, and even my scout doesn't think that he's too great. So it's kind of just a really, really tough predicament. I really have my work cut out for me. This is definitely going to be a challenge. I hope to keep you guys updated and kind of explain to you how I go about fixing things. Maybe kind of give you brief updates on how I kind of give you brief updates on my strategy and how I kind of plan to turn this ship around. Because right now it's not looking pretty. As you can see here, I'm 2-7 to start the year, and my owner is probably not going to be happy because he expects me to. He actually expects me to not suck completely, which is very, very vague. But yeah, basically my goal is probably around 60 wins, which I think is doable. It looks like last year the Phillies won 73 games, which is actually what their expected record was. This year my expected record is 63 wins, I think. Let me actually double check that. Yeah, my preseason prediction was 63 wins, so that's probably around what I hope to achieve. Something in the 60 to 65 win range would be cool with me. Maybe I'll get a high draft pick. Maybe I'll get to take somebody nice. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This has been my first video. Hope you guys keep watching. I hope you subscribe. I hope it's something that you'll enjoy. Thank you.